What is up, guys? It is RSC6414 here, back with another video. This time I'm reviewing TNA Impact Wrestling. Overall, it ended about 2 hours ago. Overall, I gotta say, the show was okay. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything over the top that I hadn't seen before. It was just a decent show. The storylines, I admit, it was better than last week's because a lot of feuds progressed going into next week's and left us wondering what will happen next week, which will give more viewers, which TNA obviously needs. Let's go ahead and get to the review. First thing we have, Austin Aries comes out. He talks about how he won Gold Rush last week. He's naming off names of who he should go after the title holder. Samoa Joe comes out. They start exchanging words. Samoa Joe says, why don't we have a match right now for the X Division Championship. Aries cashes in his Gold Rush #1 contender shot, and we have a match to kick off the show. Austin Aries versus Samoa Joe, X Division Championship match. Honestly, this was the best match of the show in my opinion. It was good X Division action, back and forth. You had some suicide dives. Then at one point you had Austin Aries hit his finisher, the Brain Buster, which I thought was going to be the end. Joe kicks out at 2.5. Joe eventually puts Austin Aries in the Coquina Clutch submission maneuver. Aries taps. Samoa Joe retains the X Division Championship. Good match, got a decent amount of time. Samoa Joe defends against Low-Ki and Kaz Hayashi at Bound for Glory, so I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped it to Low-Ki then in the next few days. It's about 11 days away, Bound for Glory. Next we got Ethan Carter III and Rockstar Spud come to the ring. Ethan Carter basically talks shit to Spud the whole time, smacks him around in the face, rips his suit. Then Eric Young comes out. He tells Spud not to listen to him, basically tells him he should listen to the fans. EC3 gets pissed. Then that leads to a match between EY and EC3 right after that segment. So we have Ethan Carter III, Trouble, versus Eric Young. This match was whatever. Honestly, I thought EC3 would win. He did. He ended up, basically what happened is EC3 gets pushed into the ref, or Eric Young gets pushed into the ref, I mean. And Ethan Carter III low blows Eric Young while Spud's distracting the ref. Spud was on the apron, and EY runs into the ref, who runs into Spud, knocking Spud down. The ref's distracted for a bit. EY gets low blowed by EC3, like I said. EC3 rolls Eric Young up, kicks out, and eventually hits the 1%er finisher for the 1, 2, 3. And EC3 defeats Eric Young. No surprise here. It was a decent match. Nothing special, nothing great, but it was entertaining for what it was worth. Next, we have a Knockouts Championship match scheduled. Havoc versus Gail Kim, defending against Havoc. Obviously, Gail Kim being the Knockouts champion. Basically, Gail Kim's coming down the ring. Her entrance, Havoc attacks her from behind and beats the crap out of Gail Kim, basically. Slams her on the outside of the ring, on the mat, outside of the ring, obviously. Gail Kim gets attended to by the medical staff ringside, taken to the back, so the Knockouts Championship gets pushed aside for the time being. We find out later on that it will happen, and it ends up being the main event. I'll get to that match in a little bit. Next thing we've got the new and improved Manic in his second match with the new look, with his members of the stable, Great Sonata and James Storm, the members of the Revolution. This stable is really interesting. Honestly, this is probably my favorite thing going for TNA right now, is the Revolution stable with James Storm and Great Sonata and Manic, because they got two guys who were kind of a little bit stale, and then they rechanged their gimmicks and looks, and now it brings an interesting touch to it. And then you have the return of one of my favorite TNA wrestlers of all time, Shark Boy. Now give me a shell, yeah. Manic versus Shark Boy. Shark Boy back in the ring. It was the match. It wasn't a great match by any means. It was just a squash match to get Manic over. But seeing Shark Boy back was pretty badass. I marked out, I'm not going to lie. The last time I saw him was TNA Explosion a couple years ago, and he just made I think it was at one of those UK tapings that he just made a short return for like a one-night only pay-per-view and appeared on an episode of Explosion. But I digress. Manic eventually hits the crossbody on Shark Boy for the 1, 2, 3, and Manic defeats Shark Boy in a squash match, basically, to get Manic over, and the Revolution ends up on top. Next, we've got MVP versus Ken Anderson versus aka Mr. Anderson. This match was whatever. This was basically set up last week when Kenny King, or a couple weeks ago, when Kenny King attacked Chris Melendez backstage and started messing with his prosthetic leg, which is pretty fucked up. TNA went a little too far, but whatever. I mean, basically, Anderson versus MVP was basically this match was set up through Kenny King's actions on Chris Melendez and Anderson coming to the aid of Melendez. This was an okay match. It wasn't anything special by any means, just whatever. Basically, MVP, Anderson goes for the mic check. Kenny King jumps on the apron. Melendez knocks Kenny King off the apron. The ref gets distracted for a second. MVP rolls Ken Anderson up for the 1, 2, 3, and MVP defeats Mr. Anderson via roll-up pinfall. It's a good way to progress the feud between MVP, Anderson, King, and Melendez. I'm sure we'll probably see a tag team match in the next few coming weeks. And then we've got a segment between the Wolves. They come out, announce the stipulation for their match. Team 3D comes out. They talk about how they're the better tag team and the gods of tag team wrestling. The Hardys come out. They talk about how they're the better tag team than the Wolves. And it goes on and on. They're arguing back and forth. The Hardys take out a ladder, being that they're known for ladder matches. Team 3D takes out a table from underneath the ring because they're brawling. Team 3D exits the ring. The Hardys exit the ring. They get their weapons. The Wolves are in the ring. Kurt Angle comes out. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, stop. Just announce the stipulation for the match. The Wolves announced, since they won the last match of the tag title series, it's 1-1-1 between the three teams. So next week, the Wolves announce a full metal mayhem match. That means tables, ladders, chairs, anything you can clock somebody in the head with or in the body with, you can fucking use. And that is the shit. But, I mean, I'm excited for it. I heard from the tapings, a lot of people said it was a really good match. One of the best ones TNA's had all year. So, I'm looking forward to seeing it. The winner of this match next week wins the tag team championships or retains, depending if the Wolves win. So we'll see what happens. I know Davey Richards is hurt, so that may have some effect to it for the Wolves. They may drop the titles, but I'm not going to make any predictions. I'll just see what happens next week. But I'm looking forward to it. Good segment. Really enjoyed it. I thought this was another highlight of the show. A really good segment. And then we've got Bobby Roode comes out. He says he's the longest reigning TNA champion ever. He calls out Bobby Lashley. Lashley comes out with MVP and Kenny King. Bobby Roode talks about how he lost to Lashley. He wants a rematch. They start one more match chance, and it was like, it felt like Christian in the WWE. But basically, Lashley's about to agree. He's about to shake Bobby Roode's hand. MVP pulls Lashley aside, says, "Don't do anything you're going to regret." They walk out. MVP says Lashley declines Roode's offer of one more match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. They exit. It looked like Lashley was kind of pissed at MVP making decisions for him. So maybe we're going to see a breakup of this stable in maybe a couple months or so. I don't know. But it just looked like there was a little miscommunication. And Lashley didn't like it. So we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future Lashley turns face and we see Lashley versus MVP or something like that. But that was another good segment here. I enjoyed it. And, of course, it progresses the feud between Lashley and Roode. And then we've got our main event of the evening. Gail Kim can compete. So we have the main event, a Knockouts Championship match. The Knockouts main eventing. That was an interesting twist. We don't see that often. But I'm cool with it. Knockouts are good. Better than the Divas in my opinion. But Gail Kim defending against Havoc. Havoc, really liked the character. I followed her on the indies as Jessica Havoc, so I'm really enjoying her character and the gimmick that they gave her, because she's got a similar one that she used on the indies. But this match was a good match for what it was worth. It didn't last as long as I'd like. It only lasted about 7 minutes. I think for a Knockouts Championship, and that's your main event, it should probably be like, you really want to showcase the Knockouts, give it about 12 to 15 minutes. But that's my only complaint really to it. It was a back and forth match. Gail Kim goes for Eat Defeat. Havoc blocks it. She hits a hammerlock slam on Gail Kim. Then Havoc sets up, picks Gail up, choke slams Gail Kim on the mat for the 1, 2, 3, and Havoc is the new TNA Knockouts champion. Overall, match was okay, nothing special, could have lasted longer, but Havoc's the new champion. That's the important thing. So that's interesting. Havoc's new champion. Next week we got a tag team championship match. And overall Impact was a decent show. It was a little bit better than last week. Where Havoc goes with the title, she's only been here a month really on the main roster, and she's already won the title, so that's interesting. They kind of rushed her into it, but hey, what are you going to do? We'll see how she performs with it, if she's ready or not, and we'll find out in the coming weeks. So overall this show was good. Overall grade, I give it 6 out of 10 is the overall grade I give tonight's episode of Impact. 6 out of 10. Hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my other videos and subscribe. RSC6414 out. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below and subscribe. Enjoy the wrestling. Deuces.